Yeah. So hi everyone. So welcome to this live panel show called Get Set Launch. My name is Teddy. I'm the host of the Publishing Performance Show, and I've got an unbelievable panel here today that we're going to be going through today. I'm sorry that I'm sat in the dark. I'm in Portugal today, and there's been a bit of a power cut, which means I've had no internet or anything today, which means I'm sat in the dark, and you'll just have to look at this kind of like Renaissance painting version of me rather than a good version of me. But we've got an unbelievable lineup of guests today. So let me just give you a quick introduction to who everyone is. So firstly, we've got Alexa Bigwolf, who is USA Today bestselling author, and she's also founder of Write and she's helped countless authors to navigate the complexities of publishing and marketing their books. She's also the co-creator of the Women in Publishing Summit. And we've also got Dale L. Roberts. I'm sure you'll know him from his YouTube channel. He's an award-winning author. He's a YouTuber, self-publishing expert. He's got over 50 books. And he's all about helping people master books on Amazon with his brand new book and also why publishing his brand new book. We've got Craig Martell, who's I've put him down as a publishing legend. He tried to edit that part out, but I'm afraid I'm going to keep it in. And he's written over 200 books, and he's run the largest indie conferences in the whole world, and he's helped thousands of authors build their full-time writing career. He's an absolute expert in launching books quickly, and that's why he's been so prolific, and that's what we're going to be talking about with him today. And last, we've got Julie Broad, who is the Amazon #1 best-selling author, and she's also the founder of Book Launchers, which is a service to help people launch their books, especially non-fiction authors. Now, Julie's mission is to really help non-fiction authors to write and promote their books that really promote and boost their brand and business. So welcome, everybody. As I mentioned before, I'm your host. I'm Teddy Smith. So I'm the host of the Publishing Performance Show, and I'm also the partnership manager for Publishing Performance, which is an AI ads management tool, which we can touch on a little bit today. So I thought we'd start with a bit more of an open question, just to go through each guest and to get them to give a background about what their approach is to launching books. And the first question is, when you think about launching a book, what is the number one thing you believe authors must get right? And we'll start with Craig.
Holy cow. We're talking launching books. Okay, yeah. The first thing you have to decide is what you're going to do. Are you going to launch a series or standalone? And that significantly changes how you conduct a launch campaign. Are you going to do a hard launch where you build up to it, or are you going to do a soft launch? I wouldn't recommend a soft launch unless you already have an established readership. So pretty much a hard launch. You're going to prepare for it. You're going to advertise. You're going to promote. And one of the key things is if you're going to write a series, you must have that second book's link when you publish that first book. So people can get that instant gratification and order that second book when they read and enjoy your first book. So you have to decide hard launch, is it a series, and make sure you got the second book in that series up for pre-order, even if it's a year down the road when you publish the first book.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Craig. And then we'll move on to Dale.
I think Craig touched on a lot of really good things, so I don't want to repeat anything he said. So I'd say trying to lock in, how are you going to get some reviews upon launch that are going to be consistently trickling in on a regular basis? That third-party credibility really goes a long way in converting into book sales. So how are you going to get that? And it's not just a simple thing of like, well, I'm just going to ask people, like, okay, what does that look like? What are the action items that you're going to do in order to get X amount of reviews? Maybe could be 15, could be 20, but it's understanding like, how am I going to load up this book as soon as humanly possible? So that way I could grease a little bit of the wheels here of readers buying your books.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. And Alexa, let's go to you next.
Yeah, I think perfectly stated by these two gentlemen, but really building the readership, building your word of mouth marketing. I think I don't think people really realize how much, especially for a first time author, how much creating buzz around their book, because nobody knows who you are. Nobody knows who some of us are after lots and lots of books. So you've got to be out there building that momentum, building the buzz, making sure people are seeing the book everywhere. And there's a lot of different ways to do that, and a lot of approaches to take. But I really want to reiterate one thing that Craig said, and that is the building up of, deciding whether you're doing a hard launch or a soft launch. And really in the beginning, as a first time author, making sure that you're taking the time to build an email list, to get advanced reader reviews, to get your name out there. Because really, I think it's really hard to stop to build that after after the fact, unless your plan is just publishing more books to build that readership along the way.
Yeah, definitely. And Julie, let's go to you just for the quick intro question, then we'll go dive a bit deeper into some of the answers we had.
Yeah, I think the big key, I mean, they covered so many good things. I don't want to go last again. Thanks. But I think it comes down to really knowing your positioning before you even start writing the book, because a lot of people write a really good book, but it's poorly positioned. So they don't know how they're going to appeal to their specific reader, or even how they're going to achieve their goals. Kind of going back to, I'm all nonfiction, but going back to Craig's, is this a series, or, what are we doing with the book? Is knowing that before you start writing, so that you can position it so you're set up to succeed, but you're also set up to appeal to a specific reader and actually sell books at the end of this.
Yeah, perfect. That's really good answers. Thank you very much. Now, Craig, you mentioned when you were chatting about the difference between the hard launch and the soft launch. Could you go into a bit more detail about what you mean about the two different types of launches there?
You bet. In 2017, we launched 10 books in 9 months in a 10-book series. And that was, we only did soft launches because we were delivering a book every 28 days. I was writing, all I was doing was writing. I wasn't really doing any conferences. I wasn't doing anything else. No secondary efforts, just writing books. So I'd write a book, and we had the process dialed down where I'd send half the book to the editor. When I finished the second half, I'd hit the end and I'd send that to her. I'd have it back within 2 days, no more than 3. Proofreaders would get it for 2 days, and then it would go up to be published. And this was the era of only 1 month pre-orders from Amazon, so we didn't bother with pre-orders. And we were just, we published them when we had them. We sold $250,000 worth of those 10 books in 2017, doing nothing but soft launches. That means publishing as soon as the book is ready, and that was it. Just because we told our readers, keep watching, and we built up our Amazon followers hugely. So they got that notification, hey, the next book in this series is out, and one after another. We did, like I said, we did 10 books in 9 months. So the readers were ready for them and got them all as soon as they came out. A huge readership following and picking up the next book. Now, hard launches, that was pretty much every book after 2017 when we had this following and wrote 10 books in a 10-book series, all in that one short time frame. Otherwise, it's a hard launch. You have to prep the readers. You have to tell them it's coming. You have to keep at it, build up those pre-orders. And now that you can do a year-long pre-order period, I do that on most books, even if I know it's going to be ready in 3 months. I still put a year on it just to start building the momentum. Get those pre-order sales, because that makes launch day big, and you get that nice paycheck on launch day. It's almost like a Kickstarter where you get paid for the book before the book comes out. Advertising, I would say a minimum of that. You don't want to do too much and spend too much money, because we are in the world of instant gratification. When people see the book, they want the book. And then getting the word out is a big thing. I do not do ARC. I do not do advanced reader copies. I simply ask my readership, just like Dale said not to do. And I've got 100,000 reviews on Amazon. So it works okay for me, building that readership and telling them, you're not going to get an advanced copy because I don't do that. But you will get the book when it comes out. Please review it. Kindle Unlimited, so most of my readers are older and they get them for at no additional cost. It's not like they have to pay $6.99 for the book and then please leave a review. And I put that in all the things, and I ask my readers. I get follow-ups with all of the even numbers. If I have 48 reviews, I'll say, hey, I only need 2 more reviews. And of course, 10 people will jump in and give me reviews. I have 98. I have 3,900, and numbers like that. And the readership will answer the mail. If they like your books and they like you as an author, they'll answer the mail and they'll step up and give you those reviews. Social proof is good for post facto, and leading into the book, it's all you saying, hey, this, giving little snippets, doing memes with quotes from your book, some artwork that you can get for your book when you have your cover, take those elements out, all different kinds of things to build up momentum and energy and interest in your book before it releases is what makes the difference with a hard launch as opposed to soft launch.
Yeah, that's amazing. And you've got an approach of like releasing books as quickly as possible. Does that have an impact on whether you do like a hard launch or a soft launch with your book releases?
I've slowed down. Those were the heyday of, but I've gotten older. I've had heart surgery since then, and so yes, there's a high stress to releasing books quickly because and also maintaining the quality. I always have a good quality on my books. I don't compromise that, even if I am writing it in a month. It's still read the book, edit as I go. I'll be in the chair for 10 hours to get 2,000 words. And any professional authors out there, they know, hey, you can write 2,000 words in an hour or maybe two. And I spend a long time looking at those words, making sure they're the right words, but I get them every day. Uh, Releasing fast
Yeah.
now, it's slower. Slower, like 10 books a year, 9 to 10 books a year, and more intentionality behind them. I try to do a hard launch with each book now.
Yeah, that's amazing. So Julie, when we're going to talk a little bit about how you do different releases for different genres next. I know because obviously you focus nearly entirely on non-fiction books. Let's go through how that non-fiction launch strategy looks compared to some of the things that Craig was talking about, and also just generally how you approach that non-fiction book release launch.
Yeah, that's going to go differently for authors whose goals are like, I'm going for the big launch because it's going to feed into, my bigger picture goals. Whereas some people actually are writing a book to grow their platform, right? So they are going to launch the book with not an audience yet, and then they're going to build momentum after the launch. Those are kind of the two big ones. And so if you're going for that big, USA Today bestseller list, or, just a big splashy launch with, high Amazon rankings, you need more time, right? You need to do a lot more things to nurture whatever audience you have, work your connections. One of the things I always tell people is my first book, it topped Amazon, like #1 in print books, but it wasn't because of my audience, but it was because of my network. I had a lot of people in my network that supported that launch, that had good, a good volume of people in their audience that were a perfect fit for the book. But that took time, right? Making sure everybody knew about the launch and were ready to promote it and all of those things. So spending time in pre-launch to get the word out so that you're generating sales and buzz so that the launch is big, that's important. But not everybody has an audience or a network already. A lot of nonfiction authors are writing the book to establish themselves as an expert. And in that case, however long you spend in pre-launch doesn't really change what's happening that much on your launch day. You can run some promotions and do a few things, but really what you're going to do is use that book after launch to get yourself on podcasts and media and find partnerships and grow that. Almost use the book like a lead magnet in order to start building that platform. So two very different approaches for very different goals.
Yeah, that's one of the things about non-fiction authors that I notice a lot, is that a lot of people use them often just as a lead magnet rather than just as a way of making sales in the first place. But if you don't have that email list at first, tactics that people can use to maybe start building that email list up, or to use other people's email lists to get their book out in front of people as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I mean, one of the big things I always tell people is please don't offer a free chapter. Nobody wants your free chapter. Even if it really is a free chapter, name it something else, right? Let's give it a good curiosity, benefit-driven name and call it that instead of a free chapter, and then drive people to sign up for that, not the free chapter, because that will really
I never read those free chapters at the end of books.
Right? Nobody does. But if you give it something that gives it value, right? Like I have a chapter called "How to Save 1,418 Hours Writing Your Book." Right? So just call it the time-saving guide to writing your book, or something like that, at least, not the free chapter. But I mean, that's one thing, is how you position whatever it is that you're giving away for free, whether it is your full book or part of your book or something like that, and getting that simple landing page set up and ready to go, so that when you do start talking about the book on social media, or when you're doing podcast interviews, or if you get some small speaking engagements, you're driving people to sign up for that list and giving them a reason to do so, right? And that's why I joke that it can't be a free chapter, because nobody wants the free chapter, but they want the outcome that you can offer on the other side of it, which is why you want to label it with something that creates curiosity or promises a benefit. So at the end of the day, if you don't have an audience, your game is getting in front of other people's audiences. So you have to start doing research and figure out what's going to add value to other people's audiences and start offering it.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you very much for that answer. Now, Alexa and Dale, I know you have books in like multiple different genres. So do you change your approach to launching the book based on the genre, or do you have a standard procedure that you follow for each one? Should we go with Alexa first?
Yeah, totally different strategies. I have a children's book picture company. That one is worlds different from anything else because trying to establish that base, you're really trying to get into schools, you're trying to get into libraries, you're trying to do things where you need a lot of things that a lot of self-published authors don't need, like CIP blocks and official trade reviews and things like that to really make a big difference in some of those areas. So every launch is a hard launch, and I mean that in all the ways. Like there's a lot of time spent finding teachers and librarians and influencers and building the list and creating resources for teachers and all those kinds of things. Then on the nonfiction side, Julie's the master. Everything she said, I agree with 100%. When I launched my original one, it was to build my email list and to build my business and have that there. So, well, my original one was grief and loss, but the original writing one was meant to build the list. And then with fiction, I really like the whole idea of influencers and ARC teams and promos and all the things that you can do to really create a lot of excitement. And I write in rom-com and fiction, and the rom-com world is just a blast to be in because so many of the authors in there are just having so much fun doing author things, like not just only sharing each other and promoting each other's books, but by literally writing series together where, 8 authors will come together and each one of them will write and promote a book in the series. In next July, we're going to do a cruise with writers and readers. And I mean, we're just having the time of our lives over in the room. And so if that's where, come hang out with the rom-com writers, it's a good time. But yeah, I think the approach is different wherever you're coming at it from and whatever you have to have as a base, and whether or not you are focusing primarily on being able to publish through Kindle Unlimited or whether you need to be in other places. For me on the children's book side, to really see the results we want, we have to be traditionally distributed because we need to get into Follett and Baker and Taylor and other places that are a lot harder for self-published authors. So that's one of the biggest things that authors have to learn. And it was mentioned earlier about knowing your audience, knowing the things, knowing the genre and knowing the norms of the genre all the way across, the expectations, not just of readers, but the expectations of buyers at a higher level as well, whatever that's going to be. So yeah.
Yeah, perfect. It sounds like you spend a lot of time trying to understand exactly where your audience would be expecting to see your books, rather than just having that same process for each one. For the children's book launch, you sort of touched on a couple of things there, which I thought sounded quite different. What are the ways you do those children's book launches by getting them into libraries and schools and things like that? How does that work?
Well, we do, because we do distribute traditionally, our launches are very long. They are a minimum of 6 months out. We order print runs, so we have physical copies of the book 6 to 9 months usually in advance. So we're doing a lot of outreach to, we submit all of them for at least 3 trade reviews because those are really important when librarians and are, in particular, are looking for books. They'll look to see if they have trade reviews associated with them, all of those types of things. So it's really just it's a matter of spending the time getting the book into advanced reader places like NetGalley, getting it out into. We've built a tremendous list of teachers, like school librarians and public librarians that we put them to. We spend a lot of my budget goes into like the American Library Association market and marketing to them and doing things of that nature. So it's a lot easier to launch every other genre. I would say children's book is quite challenging if you're trying to be super competitive, but it's also a lot of fun, and there's a lot of joy because they get to go into the classroom and read their books to kids and have a good time and do all sorts of fun things like that. But it's an involved process, I would say.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you very much. And Dale, you've got a couple of different genres as well that you write in. So how do you approach the different genres when you're looking at launching a book?
I just have a similar system and process for most everything that I've put out. I mean, been doing it for over a decade now. So now it's a process of just tweaking and iterating and trying to improve with each one of those book launches, finding what's going to work for a specific genre and then doubling down on it in future publications and such. So it's a lot of trial and error. But ultimately, I usually don't change it much. But then again, I'm not crossing very much genres. A lot of it's primarily nonfiction, and I'll be delving a little further into fiction here later on this year.
Oh, nice. Do you have a ARC team that you use for promoting your books when they launch?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I usually try to gather those together at least 2 to 4 weeks before the launch. So that way I can have those reviews ready to rock and roll as soon as the launch date comes along. It's just a case of trying to communicate that with my readership and getting it out there, because a lot of times they don't know. You could say it a million times and some people are like, I didn't know you had an advanced reader copy out there. So you have to just continually communicate. So that way you can really build that ARC team up. And something I hadn't touched on before when I was coming to reviews was thinking about the fact that you're not going to have 100% of your ARC team leaving a review. It would be nice. I would love that to happen for each and every single one of you watching this. But the reality is only a percentage of those people are going to leave a review. Unless you have an ARC team of like 3 people and they're like your mom, dad, and sister. Of course, they're going to leave a review. But all joking aside, you're going to find that there's going to be a percentage. Generally speaking, I tell people, you're going to see about 33% of people, a third of people leaving a review on launch date, and eventually start to trickle out. It'd be great if it's closer to 50, 70%. Please make me wrong. I want you to prove me wrong. If you've got an ARC team that can bring in more than a third of them leaving a review, then you've done a good job.
Yeah. I mean, now you've got obviously a huge YouTube channel, and I'm guessing you've got that quite a big ARC team already. But if you think back to when you were maybe getting started, you're a bit smaller, you didn't have all of those processes in place. What would be some good advice you would give to people to start getting that ARC team in place and to really building that team that's going to promote your work for you?
Email 10 times over. That was all I had prior to YouTube, was an email system, getting that email newsletter and communicating with my readership on a regular basis, and not just, well, I've got all these emails. I don't know what I'm going to talk about. I know what I'm going to talk about. And it's pretty easy because I'm going to talk about the things that they come to expect from me. So that way they open those emails. And then as I'm building that know, like, and trust factor between myself and my reader, they're going to be more apt to want to become part of an advanced reader copy team when I offer something like that. If you want to go ninja level, you can always just segment your email subscriber list down to the people that are the most active. Who are the ones that are most often opening your emails? Who are the ones that are clicking on some of those things? I would focus on them, segment on them, and see if you can be able to pull some ARC readers from there before you give it out to the more general audience of your email newsletter.
Oh, that's really interesting. So actually what you're saying is you're just building your email list and you're building your subscribers through that way. And then you're trying to get them to become your ARC team rather than saying, this is my ARC team. Can you guys just go and promote our work for me?
It's kind of like a different type of a funnel, but not a sales funnel. It's a review funnel.
Yeah, exactly. Now, Craig, before you mentioned you don't really focus on having an ARC team. So do you do anything to try and get your books in front of the audience at first, or is it just a case of using your email lists to get them to read your books as well?
I'm sorry, you kind of broke up there. Did you say that again?
Sorry, Craig. So you mentioned before about you not really having an ARC team that you use for your books, and you actually just focus more on getting your readers to read your books when it comes out as one of your launch processes. Was there any reason why you didn't want to have that ARC team in place, or do you is it the same approach but just under a different name?
Yes. As Dale said, if you get a third or a half, you're doing well. Well, that would irk me 100 million%. So, just like when I first started writing after I retired a second time, and I said, I'm not going to go trad because I absolutely am not going to get a rejection letter. I'm not putting up with that crap. I'm a retired Marine major. I'm a retired lawyer, and I'm not going to get a rejection letter. And I'm not going to send somebody a free copy of a book and get a rejection letter by them not leaving a review. So hell no, not playing that game. I put it out there. If they pay for it, well, they've earned the right to leave a review or not. And I ask them, and I'm pleasant. I share pictures of Stanley, and I talk about Alaska. So on my newsletter, I've got like 17,000 on my newsletter list, and I get good engagement there. But if they want to, they're paying for the privilege to either leave a review or not leave a review. I'm not going to give them a free copy and have and get no review. Just homie ain't playing that game.
Do you do anything to try and get people to leave reviews for your books? Do you have, and if you, obviously you've got that big email list already, do you have any advice for people who are maybe less reviews and less of a list?
Be sincere, be yourself. The best thing you can do is be a good person. And if you're a good person, if somebody sends you an email, answer them, send them a note back saying, hey, thanks for reading the book. Appreciate it. Appreciate the kind words. Anything like that. Just be good, and people will be good to you. I get great reviews. I had one book that, oh, geez, I only sold like 200 copies, but I got like 120 reviews. And those were all sold. And so, I mean, usually when I first started, it was if you got one review out of 100 book sales, you were doing well. That was standard. And now I probably get one review out of every 10 sales.
Wow, that's amazing. Julie, with the nonfiction books and trying to get your advanced reader copies and to get people to review your books as quickly as possible, do you have any tactics that you use for trying to get those reviews in the first place?
I mean, not much different than what's been said. The one thing I don't give away free copies very often either. It's usually to very strategic people. Somebody's got some loud stuff going on there.
Yeah.
It's not me. Yeah, so I usually will let my ARC team know the book is available for 99 cents, right, on Kindle if they want to go grab a copy and buy it. I'm typically not giving away free copies myself unless it's to our existing clients or kind of people in my, like Dale. I'll give Dale a free copy. But, you know, beyond that, it's not, I'm usually doing a 99-cent, you know, notification. Hey, it's on sale for 99 cents. You can grab it now on pre-sale. For a lot of our authors, though, you know, we are encouraging them to give our copies. And, you know, there's so many great platforms now versus when I started. You kind of had to send a PDF of your book, but now you can use Story Origin or Book Funnel. Like, you know, there's so many great Book Sprout. There's so many great platforms that you can send a secure copy out and you know, do those ARC copies, which wasn't available before, and they help manage the list too and help you kind of know who's posting reviews and follow up. But yeah, I'm a little lazy on that regard. I don't pester people. I think I don't like rejection either now after hearing Craig say that. I don't want to deal with the rejection either. So I'll get them to buy the book, and then I don't know who's bought the book, and you know, I'll encourage people to post reviews after.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be nice to be in a position to not worry about rejection, but yeah. So Alexa, this question came in from one of your audience originally, so I thought I'd let you answer it as well. So the question mainly is an ARC team a must-have or a nice-to-have in your opinion?
Oh, well, I think we've just established that it's not a must-have because clearly we've got some very, very successful authors who don't have an ARC team and are doing just fine. I think it really depends on, back to what Julie originally said of what you're trying to achieve with the launch. If you're trying to launch and then grow from that, which you can do from any genre, you do your first book and then you continue on and you build your audience as you go, or whether you're trying to go all in and get something really big. Obviously, what makes people buy more books is word of mouth marketing first and foremost. So that's what an ARC team does. It gives you that word of mouth marketing. But there are lots of other ways that you can do that without actually having to do your own ARC team. There's there's book review tours that you can hire that will get your book and distribute it out to people who are going to go out and talk about your book, or do that. There's all the tools that Julie mentioned, the book funnel, story origin, all of those that help you get the book out and do things. The most, it's not, I like an ARC team because if you can collect email addresses, if you're truly trying to make sure that people are taking action, when you are getting people to sign up on your email list to get a copy of the book, the thing is you have to direct them. You have to tell them, I'm not just giving you this book because I want to just give it to you. I expect you to do something, either post a review on Goodreads or your social media or a blog, or yes, please, to Amazon, because that one really makes a difference for so many indie authors. But you give them tools and kind of direct them along the way to post this picture, use this hashtag, tag me, do this, do that, with the goal of growing that word of mouth marketing for you. Sorry, my brain just kind of shut down for a second there. Well, you want to create buzz. You want to get people talking about your book, and nobody can talk about it if nobody's ever read it. So if you're a first-time author and you've never written a book and nobody's ever read anything, it's really hard to have people talking about your book. So from my perspective, I think they're very important. But when I'm in Craig's position with 200 books under my belt and however many thousands of reviews, I'm not doing an ARC team anymore. So maybe long before then. But
how important do you find reviews, like not on Amazon as well? So if you're talking about reviews on other places, like for example Goodreads, or even more editorial reviews, how impactful do you find those compared to Amazon reviews, Alexa?
They can be critical. They can be absolutely game changing. I mean, Goodreads, if you get enough people behind you on Goodreads, there's all these lists, there's awards, there's Goodreads. If you're not familiar with it as an author, it is the social media platform just for books. People just go there to talk about books and share about books. And whenever someone takes an action, it shows up in your friends' feed. So people can see that. And I've seen case studies of no-name authors who have done a tremendous job of growing a lot of activity on Goodreads and just having phenomenal launches because of that. Trade and editorial reviews really depend. I think editorial reviews are best for nonfiction authors and specific types of books until you're at a higher level. Trade reviews obviously are good for anyone because those high level trade reviews are, well, I shouldn't say good for anyone. They can be good if you're being promoted by a large trade company, but people ask all the time, is it worth it to pay for Kirkus? And it's hard to say. There are really good things that come from that, but if you're a first-time author and you're trying to decide whether you should be spending $500 on, sending out books to book talkers or doing a Kirkus review, you might want to go with the influencers. But that's the other thing, is that influencer marketing, book talk has changed the world for everybody, but especially for authors. You can't go into a bookstore anymore without finding a table that is book talk featured books and as seen on book talk and marketed here and there. So it's important, but the route that you take to get there can vary tremendously, and it will just matter. It will vary based on goals, budget, opportunities, and those types of things.
Yeah, no, thank you very much for that answer. Craig, you're nodding along to a lot of the answers there. What's your opinions on focusing on getting those non-Amazon reviews, the outside reviews as well?
The important differentiation is new authors. You probably will have to give some books out for free to folks who read your genre. It's nice to collaborate with authors of your genre. And like Julie had said right up front, write with intentionality, write with the reader in mind. What is your perfect reader? Write for that person, and then build that readership from that visibility, from that individual. The ARC team, getting that buzz going is important. I mean, after you've been established, I mean, the rules are different for me because I'm established. The rules for new authors are you have to, discoverability is really, really freaking hard. You can advertise, you can market, you can get the word out there. And that's why collaborating with authors at your level in your genre is so important. We just came back from Aruba. I called it the Davos of Indies. We had some $50 million worth of book sales from the 50 authors in that room. So collaborating and understanding and talking with authors, because what got you there won't keep you there. And so everybody is looking at, what is a different thing? What am I not doing that I should be? What am I doing that is wasting time? Where can I get the biggest bang for the buck? Where am I going to leverage my money? And I also consider time as money. How can you invest what time you have and what money you have to deliver the best launch and the best book experience for your readership? I just canvassed my readership a couple months ago, because I love my thriller series, but sales are tapering off and it's not paying its own way now. So I asked my readership just a blanket question: what would you like to see more of? And I gave them and 4-1, they want more of my military sci-fi. So, okay, hey, I can see why my thriller readers are falling out and they want that more. So guess what I just wrote? The first in a new series in a military sci-fi, because give the readers what they want. That's what Julie was talking about. And when you're a first-time author, you don't know how to write to that yet. But you know how you learn it? You write and you keep writing. And then you work with that readership, the first people who like your books. Hey, have a conversation, because, hey, you're my first readers. What did you like about the book? What didn't you like? And that will help make you a better writer for the next launch. And then you feed them what they're hungry for and what they like. So that's how you improve your launch from launch to launch. Your very first launch, just like your very first book, it's gonna suck. Just accept that. And then if you start up here and you sell 100,000 books with your first launch, your first month, guess what? You're not going to be able to replicate that because you didn't know what you did right. I like people who have bad launches and then you build from there. My first book, I sold like 53 copies, and I think 50 was My Old Man. So it learned the hard way. The wisdom through experience, and experience is bad lessons that you learn from. Don't make the same mistake twice. That's as an author, that's all you need to do, and you'll be fine. Keep writing, keep learning. So keep track, keep a journal or a spreadsheet on here's what I did for the launch, and then improve upon it each time. Cut out what didn't work, add what might work. Try something new until you're getting the launch that you want, which means a pre-order of X, which means a launch ranking of X, even though the rank is relative, it's against other books. But how many page reads are you going to get that first day? How many reviews do you get that first week? What do you have to do to get more? And leverage what's going to give you that 20% of your effort is going to deliver 80% of your revenue. That's a Pareto rule. Find what that 20% is to get that 80% and leverage more of that.
I think a lot of people forget that launching a book, especially, is a bit like starting a business, and you've got to have those processes in place so you know exactly what you can do. Because a lot of people are just stuck in the weeds of writing, being creative, doing that fun stuff without thinking about how they can get a book in front of as many people as possible. And I think that's probably one of the key mistakes we see people make most of the time. Now, when it comes to doing the marketing during your launch, so obviously my background is in Amazon ads, and I do a lot of work with people using AI for their Amazon ads and how they can do that. How they can basically run it without having to do it themselves. But to what extent do ads feature in your launch process, and how important is it to make sure you're getting those right? So we'll start with Dale. So Dale, how do ads feature in the launch process for your books?
It's integral. It's integral. There's not. I don't know who's dispensing the information of don't advertise a book after you've published it, but I'm going to advertise a book. If it's on a marketplace, give me an ad. I'm going to run with it. It is absolutely critical. And when I go to launch a book, I'm running various different types of ads through Amazon ads. Now, I don't venture too far off of Amazon ads. It's what I'm very familiar with. I don't try to attack Facebook ads, BookBub ads, none of that. I'm just real good at Amazon ads. So I think if anybody's trying to find some type of message of like, oh, what can I do? Figure out that advertising system that you want to go with. Study it, learn from the best, tweak, test, iterate on it, and you'll be able to improve in due time. But Amazon ads absolutely critical for my launches.
Yeah, definitely. I think with non-fiction books as well, it's a bit more straightforward, because I always say to people when I speak to them about Amazon ads, with non-fiction books, you're usually trying to solve a problem or answer a question that someone's got. So that keyword research is quite straightforward, I think, often. And some people try to overcomplicate it by having 100 different keywords, trying to rank for all these different things, when really they should be focusing on the one or two that they really want to be on page one for. Is that the same sort of approach that you follow?
Now, is this for placing keywords as targets? Or are you talking about keywords in the back end?
Yeah, no. So specifically towards with ads, I mean, not in the back end keywords.
For targets, I don't try to go too crazy. There was a day when we used to be like, yeah, let's put 1,000 targets in there, but less is more these days. You want to definitely get really, really dialed in to exactly the keywords and the targets that your audience is going to resonate when you have that ad served out in front of them. So be very, very calculated about the keywords and targets that you use if you want to see a good return on your investment, because otherwise just throwing out any old terms or even allowing automated targeting, which there's a place for automatic ads, that's fine. But you are going to find a lot more better results when you can get that dialed into the keywords that your customers are ideally looking for, and not some vague, ambiguous keyword like, that seems like a popular keyword. No, don't waste it. Get yourself super targeted when you're running your ads, so that way you're not losing a ton of money on a bunch of irrelevant terms, products, categories.
Yeah, or super generic ones, like, unless you're James Clear, don't target the keyword habits.
Right. Yes. Or books. There's a good one.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
an old school one.
Now, Julie, I know you do a lot of ads in part of your launch process with book launches. So could you talk us through how ads feature into the launch process that you follow at book launches?
Yeah, it does depend author by author. In general, we don't run Amazon ads until post-launch, but we do run 99-cent ebook sales for launch, and we'll use promo stacking through programs like what Written Word Media has. Some of those, we'll run a 5-day 99-cent sale, and each day we have a different promo that we're running for those. And then we typically will use Amazon ads after the fact. And there's lots of reasons behind it. We do find the Amazon ads start to perform better once there's reviews and there's momentum, which is why we don't generally start with Amazon ads. We start with kind of getting everything going, and then we add Amazon ads after. We also find that one of the benefits with Amazon ads is that, it continues, that sales continues to feed the algorithm. So we add the ads in after when everything else you're doing starts to die. we add the ads on after to keep feeding that algorithm, to keep getting the book sales and momentum. So that's our approach.
I think there's kind of two schools of thoughts with those running the Amazon ads. So when I launch my books, the non-fiction books, especially on Amazon, I kind of want to get those ads running straight away, just so I can say, it's kind of like me saying to Amazon, hey, I'm a serious book. I'm going to be putting some investment into this, even whilst it's on free. I just want to get it out there into the world so as many people can see it as possible. But you're right. I think it can convert not as well. So if you don't have as many reviews at first and your book's free, sometimes people get a bit disheartened because their book's not converting. But I think it's important to just get it out there into the world as fast as possible. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I agree. I think the challenge with, for me, running my ads and having my team run my ads like all day long, go for it. I'm not worried that it's not converting on day one. But when you're doing it for other people, as you'll know, Teddy, they get anxious. And they're like, we've spent money and nothing's happening. And you got to explain that we have to train the algorithm. And, it's going to take more than 2 days before you start to see some sales as a result of this. We have to hone the keywords. So that's generally the honest answer as to why we wait as a company to start running ads for other people on their books, is because it does do better after we have reviews and after Amazon's seen who the book is going to perform better for. The ads just do better. And so it's an easier conversation for us as a company.
Yeah. Now, Craig and Alexa, when you're doing more fiction books, and you've got children's books as well, Alexa, how do ads feature into your launch process? Should we start with Alexa?
So with the children's books, actually, we do not run Amazon ads. I've got a couple that are really low budget Amazon ads on there. I'm actually running Facebook ads. And the reason for that is that the books, children's books, if you think about the most famous children's books today, the best-selling books are still the ones that we grew up with, right? It's very, very hard to break to the top of those lists. So for me, I don't see as much from the Amazon ads, but what we are seeing is really good results on directing people to the Amazon page through Facebook ads, especially since we put the ebooks on KU. And so we've seen an increase of sales on our paperback and hardcover books through that tactic. They get a chance to kind of check it out, see it. Oh, yep, this looks good, and we're going to go ahead and buy it. But yeah, so that's been I really like Facebook ads for the children's books. For our nonfiction and fiction, we tend to use Amazon in the same that Julie just mentioned, where we'll start them after 50 reviews or so. We'll start looking at ads. Actually, I'm gonna have to contact you, Teddy, because I could use some help on my Amazon ads.
Yeah, we can chat through it. I always wondered how children's book authors do their advertising, because I've got a children's book and the main character is a giraffe and the other one is a frog and they're friends. And I was thinking, are people really going to search giraffe and frogs friends children's book? Probably not. So I was always wondering how best would be to advertise that. And I was thinking maybe it'd be through some of the lessons that you learned in the book, or the keywords could be maybe the lesson for the children, or the outcome, or something like that.
Right.
But I need to work on that one a bit.
Let me know what you find out.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, and Craig, how do ads feature into your launch process?
Oh, how do ads feature? We just spent a lot of time in Aruba talking about that between the $1 million authors, and you learn a lot of things. Amazon ads. People go to Amazon to buy stuff. Amazon ads, I think, are a foundational element for any business owner, and especially as a writer and publisher. Now, the best thing you can do for your Amazon ad is had a great conversion rate. So your blurb has to work. What got the reader there has to sell them on buying it. Now, in order to juice that algo, Facebook ads can better target and send people to Amazon. So the highest performing Amazon ads use Facebook ads to drive the traffic there. And then the conversion rate is lower because the people are going specifically to this product page and they're there, and that improves the conversion rate. And people are getting 4-to-1. 4 people show up and one person's doing a buy. And that means everything is aligned. You're getting the right readership, which that tells Amazon, and it gets smarter. And so when you're running automatic ads, which is almost all I do, standard ads, which means no text, which means the ebook and the paperback, that is critical. You put both of those together, and Amazon knows who buys what. So I took my paperback sales from 5% to about 40% of my sales because of automatic ads, where I clump the ebook and the paperback together. Also, the question on are the rollouts different? You got to tell the readers, hey, the audiobook is now available. The ebook and paperback are both available on the launch. So when you notify your newsletter or you post on social media, you want to tell them both the ebook and the paperback, because you will have different buyers for each, and satisfy the ones. I also have a direct store. I have way too many paperback copies in my garage, so I'll use Shopify and put sales. Like I've got my one thriller. I've got the first 4 books for $25 plus shipping, whereas you go to Amazon, they're $12.99 each. So and that earns me about $2 on those 4 books, but they're in my garage, and that money is already spent. That was a failed effort to get into bookstores, and so I've got 200 copies of the first 4 books in that series, 200 copies each. So yes, you do what you have to do to monetize, and also that's good for cash flow, because that cash is gone 2 years ago. But now, if I can get $25, that's great. I'll take it. So I make a trip to the post office once or twice a week to drop off books and get them on their way to the new owners, and build that readership, because there's 8 books in that series and there's paperbacks for all of them.
And I think 800 books is more that it's a bigger space in your garage than people think, I imagine.
I actually have a 1,300 square foot garage. I have room for my tractor in between the 2 cars, and then still I have room for probably about 1,000 books there. It's ridiculous how much space we have in our garage, and you don't want to use it like that, because you would think there's not that much space because I've got all of these boxes of books. Those need to go away. Find a new home.
You've basically got a book hanger. Now, one of the things you talked about just then was you send Facebook ads traffic directly to Amazon rather than going via a landing page. Do you use any tips or tricks to try and track the conversion rate of how those Facebook ads are doing? Because I know that was quite hard, but that's recently become a bit more straightforward.
Facebook knows a lot more about its users than you ever will. So the big name authors, and you hear it here first, they're using very, very broad targeting. Like we're talking 250 million, all of the US 18 to 65 plus as the target, and no other restrictions. And then putting the book on there, but making a custom graphic that has that this is a book, like a Kindle Unlimited logo on it, so it's very clear what people are getting. And that Amazon will look at that and say, or Facebook will look at that and say, yes, here's a person who buy books and Kindle Unlimited. When you try to restrict it and say Kindle owners, now Facebook screws you. I mean, I had my ads rejected over the past few days, and so I cut all that crap out and just went US only, and that's fine. I published a book in French. I just did France only and no other limitations. And guess what? Working great. So trust that these people know more about their targets. They're not going to show your ad to people who aren't going to buy it. And Facebook is not spending all of my money. Also an oddity. They're usually prone to that. But when you've got things set up in that way with the right graphic, and I can't emphasize that enough, you've got to have the right image with the right little info on there to make it very, very clear that this is a book. That's a cool image and the Kindle Unlimited logo on there. If somebody clicks that, you've already got about a 90% solution. So that goes to your conversion. It goes right to the landing page, the product page on Amazon. Everybody wins. They get a book they want to read. I make money. Life is good.
Thank you so much for that answer. There's some great tidbits in there about doing the Facebook ads. I usually try and target it much more than that. So that's great to know that you can just let Facebook kind of run with it sometimes. Now, a bit of a controversial question to sort of round up towards the end is, what's a common piece of advice, launch advice, that you disagree with? So this is something that you often hear people talk about, but maybe you don't think is quite right. So Julie, let's start with you.
Oh, a lot of people say you have to have social media, and they really emphasize social media, but I think a lot of people treat social media like a magic bullet, and it's a tool. It is one of many tools in your toolbox, and you don't have to have social media to succeed as an author. It helps, but it also takes a really long time to build up a good following and platform. So I wouldn't wait to create a social media following before you launch your book. I would find other tools and strategies that are a better fit for you.
Brilliant. That's good advice. Yeah, I really don't like social media very much, so I find it a bit of a chore to just make sure I'm getting down and writing my post down. Alexa, how about you? What's a common piece of advice that you kind of disagree with?
Gosh, that's hard. I probably would have said the social media too. I had something. Sorry, it's late
Okay.
and I'm getting tired. I would say that you can just launch a book and then build it after you come. That's possible in certain scenarios, as we've said. But for a first-time author who's really trying to get out there, not taking the time to really go through the process, I guess not spending money. You hear a lot of people say, just write the book and then just publish it. Well, I mean, when you write that book and you publish it and you haven't done the work to do it well, that you've just put that work out there in the world forever. And, it's hard to come back from that. If your first book out there gets a lot of bad reviews and you've built this you have a reputation now, so that's harder to overcome too. So do it right. Don't rush it. I'm not a big fan of the write a book in a weekend and publish it on Monday kind of thing. That would be my thing. I would say don't rush the process. Take the time to do it right.
Yeah, brilliant. That's some really good advice there. And Dale, how about you? What's some advice that you disagree with?
If I ever hear bad advice, I typically forget it as soon as I hear it. So what I would recommend, I just only have so much memory and so much time in my day, so I don't try to remember bad things. But what I would say is everybody's heard varying viewpoints from all the panelists, and including, of course, our host here in Teddy. And you probably noticed that it's varied. It changes. It's wildly different from one person to the next. And so you have to understand that this business is not just a one size fits all. You have to find out what truly fits you, your genre, your niche, and your reading audience. And it's going to take some time. It's going to take some experimentation. And it's going to require some blunders and mistakes along the way. Lord knows I've made quite a few of those, but it's okay, because as long as you learn from those mistakes and improve on it, you'll be good to go. So that's just my one take. Is I don't remember any bad advice necessarily. I usually just try to tune out the hype beasts over on YouTube. They're like, hey, write a book in the weekend with only $2. Shut up. Just shut up. No, I'm good on that. I'll just tell you the best advice I can give you is learn from everybody.
Yeah.
Try to implement what you learn from all these experts in some capacity, test, iterate, improve, and grow as an author.
Yeah, definitely. I think the main advice I can see, the main trend coming from what everyone's saying is each genre is slightly different. And so you do need to make sure that you're understanding what's working right for your books and how you can learn from that and build on that in future, so that you can make sure you're treating your book business as a business and not just putting stuff out there and just hoping it's going to sell. I think that's probably the biggest takeaway for me so far when you're doing a launch. And Craig, we'll ask the same question to you just before you go.
I think the advice I give is pick one social media platform and become an expert in it, as opposed to trying to spread, a mile wide and an inch deep. And Facebook is my platform. And I see, because I'm an author, I have a lot of author friends. I get a lot of ads for the write a book in a weekend. Here, we will publish your book for you. We'll do all of this. We'll get you on a list. If it sounds too good to be true, well, it's mostly all bullshit. It is that you have to do the work, and to get better at it, do the work. So like Alexa said, don't write a book in a weekend, just publish it. No, I mean, you really need to get it edited. And even if it's a friend, it's still, the better you can get it edited, the more professional the quality of the book, the better you are. So don't fall for any get rich quick schemes. Don't fall for any, I can make you a best-selling author, just pay me $10,000. I mean, I stopped consulting. I used to charge $250 for an hour of my time, 2 Zoom calls, half hour each, and I would review some stuff in between. And I stopped doing that because I saw that the people were counting on me too much to carry them, to make them successful. And that was way too much pressure for me, because I'm not going to take responsibility for your success. So you have to do the work. And that's anybody who says there's a shortcut. Now, you can trade money for time. Like I'm a big fan of the Learn Self-Publishing Ads for Authors course. It's like $850. Oh, that's a lot of money. But you learn a lot of stuff that you could spend a long time with and a lot of money, trial and error. You can take that shortcut of learning through their lessons. So those kinds of things, but you got to trust other people. Don't do it just because you saw a Facebook ad on it.
Perfect. Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you very much. Basically, some of those gurus, you don't want to be just trusting them, because they, I've seen some of the content of those courses and they're not too good, a lot of them.
Yeah, they're not too good. Yeah.
Now, just to wrap up, just for the last one. So I'd like to get a bit of an idea about what the book you're currently writing is, and or the one that you've just released, and give us one tip that you could give to each of the people watching about how you've launched that book and how they can use that in launching their next book as well. So it's a chance for you to talk about the projects you've just been working on or you're about to release as well. So Alexa, let's start with you first. Let's go through what's your next project, or what's the project you've just done, and give us one tip for how you launched it successfully.
Well, I'm actually working on 2 books right now. I'm working on a kind of a workbook to go along with the course that I run on launching a book, and then I'm working on my 3rd rom-com in my series of fun little light fall in love in France novels. So that neither of them have launched yet, so I can't tell you about the launch success of that one. but of those. But I had a blast by taking my book over to Paris, the first one, because it's called 4 Days in Paris, and like getting now this is one time where I really did enjoy social media. I was taking pictures of me and my book in front of the Eiffel Tower and getting other people to hold the book and do pictures of the book with fun France stuff, and that was a blast. So I've been having fun with it. Have I seen huge crazy sales? No, but I'm really happy where I'm at in terms of the sales, and as a first book in a series, and my first rom-com series, I'm pretty happy where it's going and where it's growing, and I know it'll get there if I keep putting in the work and having fun with it and publishing good books.
Oh, perfect. I love a holiday that also counts as a little tax write-off as well. So that's perfect, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. Why do you think I write my book set in France? Because I have to go
Yeah.
research,
Why was Joanna Penn's last novel set in just outside Las Vegas? So Dale, yeah, what's the projects that you're working on that you've just released, and what's one tip for the launch for how you made it successful that other people can learn from?
My most recent release was the bestseller book launch plan, essentially just guiding people through my entire process from ideation to publication and beyond. And I just wrapped up last night the first draft for YouTube for Authors, and I plan on having that coming out in the next month or two. Just got to make sure I get everything dialed in first before I start to tell people it's going to be coming out. But for the most part, I'm not sure if that covered all the question there.
I'll have to be one of your ARC team for that YouTube one, I think.
There you go.
Yeah. And Julie, what's the project you're working on at the moment or that you've just released, and what was a good launch tip you've got from that project?
Yeah, we're working on a second edition of Self-Publish and Succeed, because when it came out, we weren't really using AI for anything. So I felt like we needed to go back over the book and, really hit some of those points of, how to think about AI on your author journey as you're self-publishing. So we're in the middle of the edits on that, and I don't know when we'll be launching it. But my one tip is persistence. I think ultimately, and it's a generic tip, not necessarily for this launch, but you might get tired about talking about your books. I do. And at the end of the day, you feel like I've said this 1,000 times, and yet there's always people who haven't heard you, or even if they have, they weren't listening or they've forgotten. And so I think it's really important to keep going and always go back to that original reader that you wrote the book for, and realize that it's your job to make sure that reader knows about your book so that you can start, connecting with them and supporting them. And in our case, most of our authors are writing their book for impact and income purposes. So, persistence, I think, is the big tip for that. And I'm super excited for your book, Dale. I forgot you were writing that. You mentioned that before. So YouTube for Authors, yay.
Yeah, no kidding. You've got your ARC team here. We're ready.
Hold you to it, Alexa.
I'd love to.
Thank you very much, Julie. And lastly, Craig, what's the project you're working on at the moment, and what's one tip you can give for how you're going to launch that book?
Well, I got the sequel to this book, Defiant, back yesterday from the editor, 146K words, just a beast. And I ended that series at 2 books because the first book did not sell anywhere near as well as I wanted. But I wrote it as a testimonial to my old man, and the second book, same. But I wrapped up that series at 2 books, right with the reader in mind. And that's why the new book that I just finished and sent to my editor today, which is 65,000 words is all, I sent that one on. And that was with the reader in mind. Canvas, what do you want more of? Yes, here you go. You're getting more of it. Some stompy robots and some soldier things and issues and concerns and small team dynamics. So right with the reader in mind, it makes your launch a whole lot easier because you know the reader, you can target the readership. I don't have them on pre-order yet because I have the first 2 covers. I just need the 3rd cover, and then I will put all 3 on at the same time, and I'll start running ads for the first 3 ebooks on Amazon using auto sponsored ads, so I can put 3 books in one ad, a standard ad, I should say, and let Amazon start figuring out what are the right readers. I'll tag in in the blurb, if you liked this book, then you should like this book. That kind of approach helps train the algo.
Yeah. What I love about this conversation we've had today is that basically everyone's talking about the tactics that everyone knows about, but it's basically just saying you just got to use them, you've got to iterate them, you've got to learn if they're working for you, and you've got to try and just put that effort into making sure you're running things in processes and making sure you're just doing the work rather than just listening about these things and trying to think too much about what could be working rather than just doing the work and saying this is actually now working and we can learn from that in future. And I feel like that's the biggest takeaway from today.
Yeah, there's best practices for a reason.
So yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's what Craig said. You just got to do the work. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for joining today. I really appreciate your time in coming. It's been amazing to get so many great people onto the panel show. And thank you so much for everyone who's come to listen. A recording of this will be saved on YouTube and I'll email it to everyone who signed up as well so that you can watch it again later. And just by magic, my power's come on in the last
I saw
10
you were
minutes.
in the light all of a sudden.
Yeah. So Portugal is back on the grid. So
That is funny. That is funny.
You're going to see, if people watching this replay, you're going to see me go from like a little weird black and white thing in the corner, like a little goblin, to suddenly looking exactly like Dale Roberts again.
Where's your orange shirt? Where's your orange shirt, man?
I wore an orange shirt and a YouTube shorts about last week, and someone was like, "Is that Dale?" So yeah, thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
It's
Thank
been
you.
great
Thank
chatting to you,
you.
Thank
and
you.
yeah, I hope you've all got loads out of today's show.
Great guest. Sorry for
Thank you very much,
bogarting
Craig,
time.
Alex,
You guys are really smart about this stuff, and it was good to hear what your thoughts were and what you did for your success.
Thank you. Great panel.
Thank you very much, Craig. Really
Thank
appreciate
you.
that.
Thank you.
We'll see you later, everyone. Bye.
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 Take care, folks.